I'm sharp. All right, we move on and we leave the 1 o'clock games. It only took us an hour and 56 minutes. Bebsie, if you do, and the week 1 is very difficult. And Bebsie, if you need to go and facilitate your needs in any second, please feel free because you're fighting a good fight. I love you. All right, we move on. Cleveland Browns, Kansas City Chiefs. We get to the 4:25 p.m. Eastern games, and look, it's a pretty easy statement to say that there's a lot of dogs out there that appeal to me. And yes, the Steelers at +6.5 and the Browns at +6 week 1 appeal to me. And I want to bet them. Arrowhead Stadium, Kansas City, Missouri, 87 Fahrenheit, sunny, 7 miles per hour. +150 is what Bet365 is offering on the Browns to win the division. +130 at other books, +150 at Bet365. And I think it's I'm almost certain I'm going to bet it at the end of the night. But I wanted to talk it out, and I wanted to let you know that I was looking at it. And, Bebsie, for me, these two spots here is the Browns over 10.5 wins at -115, and the Browns to win the division at +150. Stefanski, Van Pelt, and Woods in their second year working together. They bring in Jadeveon Clowney, whom I don't trust. Karis McKinley, who I think will work good opposite Myles Garrett and possibly Clowney. John Johnson from the Rams as a safety. They get Greg Newsome in round 1 out of Northwestern. And that defense was money. And fading Northwestern was so easy this past week in college football. So easy. Jeremiah Osua-Koromoa comes in from Notre Dame. They lose Sheldon Richardson to the Vikings. Look, he gets paid too much. Get rid of him. Ogunjobi to the Bengals. And Olivier Vernon, it's so sad that he tore his Achilles and, sorry. Everybody's back for these Browns. 11 starters on offense. And look, Beckham's last chance. I don't care about Beckham. He's not a part of this puzzle for me. And he's got a lot to prove right now in his career. This is an offensive attack that's very dangerous. We saw what Stefanski has done and Alex Van Pelt has done with Baker Mayfield, and it's legitimate. It's real. After week 9, Mayfield was the 4th highest graded passer from Pro Football Focus. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt make everybody's job easier. They lose Odell Beckham for the year, and they're still monstrous offensively. And then all of a sudden, Mayfield becomes smart. And it's impressive. Look, their defensive troubles were all about defending the pass. And that's going to change this year. They draft Greg Newsome in the first round. They get Greedy Williams back. That's a huge, huge difference. In the defensive line, they lose Olivier Vernon, Sheldon Richardson, and Ogunjobi. And I don't know if Clowney and McKinley will be able to replace them fully. But what I do know is that they are so dangerous defensively that even if they don't get that full replacement, Myles Garrett's going to be a monster. And they get Grant Delpit back, their safety. He missed his entire rookie season with the ruptured Achilles. So John Johnson, Greedy Williams, Grant Delpit, Greg Newsome. Defensive tackle is a worry. I get it. They draft Jordan Elliott. He's got a big job to do. But, look, I'm very high on these Browns. Am I too high on them, Bebsie?
I think anytime you get that excited about any team, you're too high on them, unless they're your own team and you want to blindly assume they'll win the Super Bowl every year. But don't bet that way. I like Cleveland. I like what they've done. I have no faith in Takk McKinley. He has done nothing but be a bust and get cut. Look, Clowney buried on a depth chart as a serviceable player, but we're still talking about a guy who's made millions off of a college tackle that he made. He's never been anywhere near what anybody expected him to. But this is a good football team, and I think it's too big of a spread to give KC early on. I think the fear right now is that KC was humbled greatly in the playoffs. They addressed their obvious biggest concern by going hardcore after the O-line this offseason. And they're going to be a great football team again. But it's too many points to lay against another playoff football team, one that is at the very least going to challenge for that division. It's crowded at the top for sure, but I get why you like the Browns. I like your futures play on the Browns. I don't know if I'd lay money with them this week because, hey, there's a chance that Kansas City Chiefs team comes out unloading.
Schnizzle out of Cleveland says, I like the under. Public sees all these playmakers and thinks big numbers. I see this as a playoff type game and grind it out. Let's go over to the market here on this game. I didn't do that off the top. Kansas City opens up at -6. I thought they were 6.5 across the board. They aren't. They're 6.5 at Pinnacle and Bet Online. I wonder if that will move to 6.5 everywhere, and this maybe should be something I just wait on. The money in this spot, 15,661 tickets in. 66% of the tickets, 61% of the cash on the Chiefs. And then 33% of tickets, but 50% of the cash on the under. So it looks like sharp money is on the under. Lineal Land liking KC. Eric Jones says public on the under, but it's moved to 54.5. Kevin Riley leaning towards Cleveland. Okay, Chiefs. 14-2 last year. Year 9 of Andy Reid. Year 4 of Eric Bieniemy. Spagnuolo in year 3 as defensive coordinator. They bring in Orlando Brown, Jerick McKinnon from the Niners, Joe Thuney from the Patriots, Creed Humphrey from Oklahoma, round 2, number 63 overall, Nick Bolton and Noah Gray. Nick Bolton, number 58 overall from Missouri, linebacker, and Noah Gray, tight end out of Duke. They lose Watkins and Damian Williams. You know, this was a team that was embarrassed in the Super Bowl, a very special football team that was embarrassed. And, you know, when I think back of that terrible Super Bowl bet with all the sharps on the Buccaneers, when you have a drunken buffoon of a, you know, I don't, but drinking and driving and smashing into a car that injures children, I should have just understood that team's not going to win the Super Bowl. I mean, it's just kind of probably a dumb, simple thing to say, but
I mean, as much as I appreciate and agree with your sentiment here, are we going down a dark road, Jimmy?
Let's move on here. Mahomes sacked 3 times, hurried the season high 31 times in the Super Bowl. Obviously, they had to fix the starting line. They release Eric Fisher and Mitchell Schwartz, and they rebuild. They trade for Orlando Brown, a huge, huge trade from the Ravens. Somebody the Ravens probably should have signed. They signed 28-year-old Joe Thuney. They signed Austin Blythe from the Rams. They draft Creed Humphrey from Oklahoma Sooners in the second round. And the return of the most loved man in all of Canada, Dr. Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, comes back after caring for seniors and care homes. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to benefit from this offensive line and the additions to the offensive line. Lucas Nang opted out of his rookie season. He's going to be back there. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce are going to have monster years. McCole Hardman going to have, you know, an expanded role without Watkins. This offense is so dangerous. Chris Jones and Frank Clark, we have a vividness bias of them. I've not been impressed with what they've done. Jaron Reed, who you talked about, the Seahawks losing, they add. L'Jarius Sneed was very good last year in the secondary. They need more from him. Shavarius Ward was not as good as we thought he was going to be. They re-signed Daniel Sorensen, who's a monster. Juan Thornhill is hopefully recovered from ACL surgery. How good are the Chiefs going to be?
Look, the Chiefs, their core is still together. I disagree with you about Chris Jones. I agree with you about Frank Clark. I think he's a little bit overrated. But on a whole, the Chiefs are going to be nasty. Their biggest flaw, the Clearly the reason they lost the Super Bowl last year was no O-line, which obviously injuries played into that. They've addressed that. They're going to be a nasty team again. They didn't do a lot of covering last year, if you remember. They're a team that knows they're as good as they are, which is a dangerous team to bet on because they can coast. And some teams, I don't think any team intentionally coasts. I think some teams don't come in ready to play because they're like, well, we're going to crush it this week. And then they, midway through the game, they're like, okay, let's take this thing over. That's why I don't like betting on KC. It's why I understand there's value, especially in a good team like Cleveland. But yeah, KC is going to be dominant again. They're going to be very tough to challenge for the division, and there's a very good to fair chance they'll be back in the Super Bowl.
Yes, a very good chance, no doubt. Birdie says Andy Reid first game off buys is a beast to the unders. You think it would be opposite, but it isn't. We know what Reid does off of buys. What do you think of this total here? Do you think that are you moving on this game at all? Because this total's gone from 52.5 to 54.5, and it probably keeps going up.
No, I'm not going to move on it, but if I was going to move on something, it would be the under. So if it's trending in that direction, I say wait and maybe pull the trigger on the under later this week.
I think the Browns can cover here, and I'm going to move on them. And I think you're right on waiting for the under.